Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Welcome to the Brass Ass Podcast. Yes, I am your host, Suitcase Ace, and I got another good one here for you today. I've got some simple tips to getting more ice time. You know, a question that frequently springs up in a hockey player's mind is, how can I get more playing time? Parents also want their kids to get more ice time on the ice, and most of them can create, I'm telling you, a real argument as to why their kid deserves it. Coaches understand that it's tough being a player who only gets a few minutes each game. And for many players, hockey is their favorite pastime. And this now makes life tough on a kid, tough on the parents, and tough on believe me, the coach. And there is no easy fix, right? Which results in players now having to compete amongst their teammates for ice time. So in this episode on the Brass Ass, I'm going to share with you, a few different tips you can use to increase the amount of ice time you think you would deserve. Don't complain. And I want to get this one right out of the way first. Excuses, whining, complaining aren't going to get you more ice time, even if it's all justified. So instead of whining about what you think is fair, start focusing on what's in your control, right? These things, folks, include your attitude, your hockey training program, how much at-home skill do you really work on every day, your hockey-specific nutrition, and how much game study do you do? Or do you just watch the highlights first thing in the morning? You got to start watching games, watching the habits of other players that even when they don't have the puck. Even though I want to get you more ice time, the more efficient way to do this is by always doing what's best for the team. And you know what? It's truly amazing what you can accomplish when you're not worried about who gets the credit. So be the first player to rush over it and help a teammate, right? After they've made a mistake on the ice. And if you're going down on a 2-on-1 and your teammate has a better chance of scoring, don't be that player. Don't be that player to try to take the shot at a bad angle by yourself. No, make your teammates better, folks. The player, I'm telling you, who is more worried about their individual stats than success of the team will never get the ice time they feel justified for them. You got to know your game. You got to have self-awareness to know your strengths and your weaknesses, and then adjust your game accordingly. So if you've never been that, let's say, that offensive-minded defenseman, well, halfway through the third period during, let's say, a tied game is not the time to work on your skill, right? Instead, focus on your weaknesses during practices and with your dry land training. And the main skill you need in hockey is to, let's say, have self-awareness to know when you should and shouldn't do certain things out on the ice. And only once you've started working hard enough in practice to develop your weaknesses and continually produce at high level outputs should you be taking advantage of those opportunities during high pressure situations out on the ice. Because unpredictability, is not a good trait. Your coach needs to trust the player. If you're the player, right, who is willing to make tough plays out on the ice, you know what? Your coach will always want you out there, 100%. The reality is, games are constantly decided on turnovers and possessions. So what coach would want to give you extra minutes each game if you have grit to do the dirty work out there out on the ice? Be the player who finishes their checks off, back checks with everything they've got, willing to dive in front of shots to block them, to protect your goalie. Be that player who works hard for the rebounds, hustles hard for on every single shift. The player who makes the tough plays is so very valuable to any hockey team. And another very important part here, folks, listen to your coach. And this sounds simple and obvious, but many players drop the ball with this one, and you know what? It totally blows my mind year after year. You know what? In order to get more ice time, you have to understand that it's the coach who decides whether or not you play. Not your friends, not your parents, and not your siblings. So if your coach is telling you to pass the puck, but you know your girlfriend is in the audience and you think it might be cool to try a breakaway, well, what do you think you should do? Pass the puck. What I'm trying to say, you got to do everything you can to make the person that decides your minutes happy with what you're doing out on the ice. Let's put it this way. Don't give any coach a reason to believe that you're not paying attention. And the big part here, talked about the coach, speak with your coach. Because sitting back and assuming, the reasons why you're not getting ice time is a big mistake if you're sitting back. No, what you got to do instead, you should set up a meeting with your coach and just simply ask them for a few minutes of their time before or after practice. And you know what? I'm telling you, this can be a tough conversation. And depending on the attitude of your coach and what their opinions are of the game. But coaches should always be open to discussing playing time with their players and the parents, age appropriate. And remember, as long as it's done appropriately, folks, right? There's some coaches out there that may refuse to have discussions about playing time. And in my opinion, that's doing the entire team a major disservice. For me as a coach, I want to talk to my players. I want to coach my players, and I'll explain to them what they need to do to get more ice time. That's just the type of coach I am. But do remember that this is a two-way conversation. Players and parents must be now prepared to accept what they might not like to hear, I would say. And it is extremely important that the questions you or your parents ask are coming across, not coming across as aggressive or condescending. What I'm trying to say is, don't speak with an angry tone. And remember that your body language is speaking just as loudly as your words. Trust me, they are, right? With that said, I have a handful of great questions that I think would be great idea to ask your coach if you're not getting the right ice time. And number one, ask, what should I do to improve on? What can I do off the ice to become a better player? What can I do to help the team? What's holding me back from getting more ice time? And what do you think my strengths and weaknesses are as a player? Huge, good questions. And let me tell you something. The worst thing you can do is argue the answers that you receive. What you got to do, you got to take the answers on board, even if you disagree with them, and do whatever you can to improve your current standing on your current team, right? Because setting up this conversation, remaining level-headed, and asking these questions will prove to your coach that you want to help them. You want to help the team, right? That you are committed to becoming a better player. And you know what? No matter how uncomfortable this conversation may seem to you, it's important to get it out of the way, because the only thing worse is remaining completely in the dark about why you're not seeing the ice time that you think, right? And my final thoughts on this very important topic: if you consistently follow my tips, you will be putting yourself at a huge advantage towards getting more ice time each game and reaching your potential in the game of hockey. And so the things you got to remember: don't complain, be patient, put your team before yourself. And players, you got to know your game. Attack the tough plays, listen to your coach, improve your hockey-specific fitness, get on a hockey-specific nutrition system, do at-home skill drills on YouTube, wherever you can find it, and speak with your coach. And if you want to dominate this season by having an undeniable level of fitness and skills to go along with it, follow what I've just talked about. I'm telling you, yes, I am your host, Suitcase Ace, and you have just listened to the Brass Ass Podcast.